There is a video on this website with 19 million views of a man dealing with a ground wasp nest, and the entire reason it has 19 million views is that he did it wrong. People are not watching that to learn. They are watching because he got hurt. I would rather you not become that video. So here are the 7 things that turn a manageable problem into an emergency room visit, in order of how badly they go wrong. Doing it during the day, pouring gasoline in the hole, sealing the entrance, shining a flashlight straight at it, mistaking it for a bee, or a bee for it, mowing without looking, and doing it yourself when the situation calls for someone else. That's the list. Now let me tell you why each one goes wrong, what to do instead, and how to tell the difference between something you can handle on a Tuesday evening and something you need to stay away from entirely. Because first, before any of it, you need to know what is actually living in that hole. And there's a reasonable chance it isn't a wasp at all. Look at the entrance. A yellow jacket nest entrance is about an inch across, and it has traffic, a steady stream, in and out, like a tiny airport. If you stand back and watch for 2 minutes and count a dozen or more coming and going, that's a colony. Now look at the insect. Wasps are smooth and shiny, glossy, hard-looking, sharply banded yellow and black, with a narrow waist. Bees are furry. Honeybees are muted gold-brown and fuzzy. Bumblebees are big, round, and unmistakably hairy. That fuzz is how they carry pollen, and it's the fastest way to tell them apart from 10 feet back. And look at the hole size. A ground-nesting bee, a mining bee, leaves a hole about 1/4 of an inch across, often with a small mound of loose soil around it. And there'll be several of them scattered across a sunny bare patch. Those are solitary. Each female has her own burrow. There is no colony, no workers, and almost no defensive instinct. They are pollinators. They are gone in a few weeks, and the correct response is to leave them completely alone. This distinction matters more than anything else in this video. Watering a lawn will make ground bees peacefully relocate. Watering a yellow jacket nest will produce a violent response. Same action, opposite outcome, and the only difference is which one you have. Bumblebees deserve their own sentence. They do nest in the ground, often in an old rodent burrow, exactly where a yellow jacket would. They're large, round, fuzzy, and flying, and they are docile unless you directly attack the nest. They're critical native pollinators. They're in decline, and in some areas they have protection. If you've got bumblebees, the answer is not to kill them. If the nest is somewhere genuinely dangerous, a doorway or a play area, that's a relocation job for someone with experience, not a can of spray. So identify first. Everything else in this video assumes you've confirmed yellow jackets. Mistake 1. Treating it during the day. By late summer, and that's right now, a single yellow jacket colony can hold thousands of workers. On a warm afternoon, a huge share of them are out foraging, spread across your property, and they will come back. If you disturb that entrance at 2 in the afternoon, you are not dealing with the wasps in the hole. You're dealing with those plus every forager within a few hundred feet, arriving from all directions, behind you, while you're focused on the ground. They also sting repeatedly. A wasp stinger is smooth. It doesn't tear out like a honeybee's. One wasp can hit you 5 or 6 times in a few seconds, and a disturbed colony does not send one. You work after dark, or at the very edge of dawn. That's when the entire colony is home and cold, and that is not a preference. It is the single condition that makes this survivable. Mistake 2. Gasoline, or fire, or both. This is the one from the 19 million view video, and it's the one your neighbor will suggest. It doesn't work. The fuel does not reach the chambers, which can extend several feet through soil in directions you cannot see. What it does do is create a vapor that can flash, in dry grass, at night, next to your house. People have started serious fires this way, and people have been badly burned. It's also illegal in a lot of jurisdictions. And the Texas A&M School Pest Management Guidance puts it about as plainly as it can be put. A ground application of gasoline does more harm to children and the environment than the yellow jacket nest does. That soil is dead afterward. Nothing grows there for a long time. Same verdict on burning. Underground nests do not burn. You are setting fire to your lawn while several thousand wasps come out of a hole you just lit. Mistake 3. Sealing the entrance. This one feels like the obvious clever move, and it's the most reliably counterproductive thing on the list. Filling the hole with dirt, a rock, expanding foam, whatever it is, does not trap them. Yellow jackets excavated that cavity in the first place. They will chew and dig a new exit, and they will do it fast, and they have no way of knowing which direction to go. Sometimes that new exit comes up through a wall cavity, or inside a garage, or under a deck. You have not solved anything. You have moved the entrance somewhere worse, and you have made a colony that is now agitated. And if you do it in daylight, you've locked out every forager. Those workers come back to a sealed hole and mill around the area looking for the way in, and now there are hundreds of confused, defensive wasps loose at ground level, exactly where you were standing. Sealing comes last, after the colony is confirmed dead. Never first. Mistake 4. Pointing your flashlight at the hole. Almost nobody knows this one, and it catches people who did everything else right. Yellow jackets are drawn to light. You've correctly waited until dark, you've got your gear on, and then you put a bright beam directly on the entrance. That beam is now the most attractive thing in the yard, and it leads straight back to your hand and your face. 2 fixes. Cover the lens with red cellophane, which they respond to far less. Or, set the light down several feet to one side, aimed at the hole from an angle, so you're working in reflected light and the beam does not originate at your body. Both work. Doing neither is how people get hit in the face. Mistake 5. Flooding it. Boiling water, the hose, a bucket. This comes up constantly, and it's a half-truth. It occasionally works on a very small, very shallow nest. On anything established it does not, because the water never reaches the inner chambers. What it reliably does is soak and enrage several thousand insects a few inches from your feet. And boiling water is genuinely difficult to apply to a hole in the ground without a serious burn risk to yourself. I want to be fair here, because you will find people who say it worked for them. It probably did, on a young nest in June. In late August you are dealing with a different animal, and the failure mode is you standing over a hole with an empty kettle. Let me stop here for one thing, and then we get to the 2 mistakes that actually put most people in the hospital. Everything in this video came out of extension bulletins, pest management guidance, and a fair amount of cross-checking, because the advice on this topic online is genuinely dangerous in places. I keep the whole property calendar in one place at backyardverdict.com, month by month, including when this window opens and when a nest goes from small and manageable to thousands strong. There's a code on screen if that's easier than typing. That's the only time I'll bring it up. Mistake 6. Mowing without walking the yard first. This is how most people meet a ground nest. Not while trying to remove one. While doing something completely ordinary. The entrance is about an inch wide and it is almost always hidden. In grass, at a bed edge, under a shrub, along a fence line, in an old rodent burrow. You will not see it from a moving mower. And it isn't the noise that sets them off, it's vibration. A mower, a string trimmer, even heavy footsteps transmit through soil, and a colony reads that as an attack on the nest. The response is immediate, and it comes from a hole you didn't know was there, and by the time you understand what's happening, you have already been stung several times. So between June and October, before you start the mower, walk the lawn once, 30 seconds. You are looking for one thing: insects moving in and out of a single point at ground level. That's it. That 30 seconds is the highest value safety habit in this entire video, and almost nobody does it. If you find one, mark it from a distance. A stake, a bucket set over it upside down with a rock on top, a couple of lawn flags in a ring several feet back. Then keep everyone away from it and decide what you're doing in daylight, calmly, not with a running mower in your hands. Mistake 7, and this is the one I actually care about. Doing it yourself when you shouldn't. There are 4 situations where the answer is not a better technique. It's a phone call. If anyone in your household has a known venom allergy, a single sting can trigger anaphylaxis, and near an active nest, a single sting is not the realistic scenario. This one is not a judgment call. If the nest is next to a doorway, a walkway, a patio, a play area, or anywhere children or pets go, the problem is not the removal. It's what happens if the removal goes badly and several thousand agitated wasps are loose in exactly the place people gather. If the traffic at the entrance is heavy and constant, that's a big, mature colony, and it means the chambers run deep and wide, and whatever you put in the entrance will not reach most of it. And if you've tried twice at night and it's still active, 2 failed attempts means the nest is deeper or larger than the entrance suggests. A 3rd attempt is not a fresh roll of the dice. It's a colony that has now been provoked twice. A professional handles this in one visit, usually an hour or 2, at night, with equipment and a protocol. Set against a hospital bill or a house fire, it is not an expensive decision. Now, the medical part, and please actually hold on to this. Normal reaction to a wasp sting is sharp burning pain, redness and swelling around the site. Unpleasant, not dangerous. Call emergency services immediately if you see difficulty breathing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue or throat, dizziness or faintness, or hives spreading to parts of the body away from where the sting happened. Those 4 signs mean the reaction is systemic, and it can become life-threatening within minutes. Also seek help for a large number of stings even without allergy symptoms, because venom load alone is a problem at volume. If you know someone in the household is allergic, the epinephrine auto-injector should be outdoors with you before anyone goes anywhere near that part of the yard, not in a kitchen drawer inside the house. So if you've identified yellow jackets, the nest is well away from where people go. Nobody is allergic, and you've decided to handle it. Here is the shape of it. You do it after full dark. You wear long sleeves and long trousers, with the shirt tucked in and the trouser legs tucked into boots. Thick gloves taped at the wrist to the sleeve, and a veil or a hat with netting. Safety glasses alone are not enough, and this is where people cut the corner, because it feels excessive right up until it isn't. You plan your exit before you start, know exactly where you're walking afterward, and make sure there's nothing in the way to trip on in the dark. You use a product labeled for ground nests, and you follow that label, because the label is the instruction manual, and dusts and aerosols behave differently. You apply it into the entrance, and then you leave. Notly and not to watch. Straight out. Then you wait. Check it in daylight from a distance the next day. If there's still traffic, repeat the following night. And if it's still going after the second attempt, you stop and you call somebody. Only once you've watched it for a full day with no activity at all do you fill the hole. 2 last things worth knowing. Yellow jackets don't reuse a nest. The colony dies off with the cold, and the site is abandoned. What brings them back is your yard being attractive to a new queen next spring, and the 2 things she's looking for are food and an existing cavity. So fill in old rodent burrows, keep bins closed, don't leave sugary drinks or pet food outside, and turn your compost. And if you spot a small nest in May or early June, that is the moment. A new colony is a queen on her own, or a couple dozen workers. The same nest in late August is thousands. The problem you're looking at right now is the same problem that was trivial 3 months ago. One thing I'd like from you. If you've had a run-in with a ground nest, put it in the comments and say what happened, and roughly what month it was. I'm asking because there's no good public picture of when these turn dangerous by region, and someone who is standing in their yard right now, looking at a hole and trying to decide whether to deal with it, is going to read your comment before they read anything else. Your account of it is worth more to them than anything I can tell them, and if you take nothing else, walk the yard for 30 seconds before you start the mower. That's the one that actually prevents this.